Hello and welcome to VB 411. I'm your host, Miz Information, the know-it-all in City Hall, here again to bring truth and clarity to misconceptions and rumors. Today's episode is all about the stormwater infrastructure in Virginia Beach. Whether it's pipes below your neighborhood, ponds to collect rainwater, or pump stations to move water along, there are pieces of this complex system strategically placed throughout our city. But how do engineers know what to place and where? Well, to help us answer that question, I've brought in the city's Stormwater Engineering Center Administrator, Tony Alger, to talk us through the challenges we face and what the city is doing to combat them. Tony, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's just get right to it. When we talk about stormwater infrastructure, we often hear about recurrent flooding in neighborhoods throughout the city. Is it my imagination, or does it seem more common these days?
It's not your imagination. So in the last 50 years, we have documented proof that the sea level has risen almost a foot. Now, the city of Virginia Beach's neighborhoods outfall to these tidally influenced waters that are impacted by sea level rise. So when it rains, the stormwater cannot outfall into, say, the Chesapeake Bay or the Atlantic Ocean because those levels are now higher.
Okay, so why can't we just go into neighborhoods and put in bigger pipes and pumps and move along the water?
Well, we could do that, and we're going to be doing that in neighborhoods. However, we need to model these neighborhoods first to see what kind of impacts the improvements in one neighborhood may have on another neighborhood, whether it's upstream or downstream. So that brings me to talk about the modeling. What we're doing is we're updating the city's stormwater master plan, which last was developed in the 1980s and early 90s. And we're doing that using stormwater modeling. And what the modeling does, it's going to identify deficiencies in the stormwater management system within the city. And in particular, we can look at specific neighborhoods and see what kind of needs they require to improve their drainage.
Okay, so once you know what's needed for a project, how do you determine what gets done first?
So as part of the master planning project, we're also creating a prioritization tool. And with this tool, we're going to look at things like emergency access, structural flooding, which is flooding in people's homes, and those types of things would be higher priorities. So we're going to look at all the watersheds in the city of Virginia Beach and take the projects that get developed out of the stormwater modeling, and we're going to put them through this prioritization tool and come up with the projects that the city needs to work on first.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. We're on a 15-year plan to complete these projects. So why does it take so long?
So funding is the first reason that it takes so long. So if we had all of the funding, we could obviously move a little bit quicker. However, environmental permitting is another obstacle that we have to face with these projects. As I mentioned, with the neighborhoods outfalling to tidally influenced waters, that requires a large environmental permit, which when I say large, I mean it impacts a lot of things. So the more impacts there are, the longer it takes to get an environmental permit.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the end of this 15 years. What can our residents expect from our infrastructure investment?
So first, we want to eliminate flooding within their homes in a 100-year storm. So a 100-year storm is a storm that has a 1% chance of occurring every year. And the second thing we want to do is to keep the street flooding to a maximum, 3 inches at the top of the crown, which makes the roads passable in a 10-year storm. And a 10-year storm is a storm that has a 10% chance of occurring every year.
Okay, so bringing us back to present day, what are some of the places where we're seeing results with these projects?
So obviously we've had some drainage issues in Windsor Woods, Prince Anne Plaza, and the lakes. And we've almost completed the dredging projects in those neighborhoods. And we have heard that the streets are draining faster. The flooding is still there, however, not as bad, or as it doesn't last as long. And the other one I wanted to mention is just more recently when Dorian was off the coast, the tides were higher in the bay, and of course the wind was blowing from the north, making those tides higher. We had a project in the Cape Henry Canal where we installed 3 sluice gates. We actually were able to close those during the storm to keep the high tide out of the canal so that the drainage within the neighborhoods surrounding the Cape Henry Canal could drain better.
So it sounds like we have a solid plan to tackle this issue. Where can people go to learn more about these projects?
So we have a web page. It's under the Public Works web page, and it's called the Stormwater Engineering Center. And you can get there by going to vb.gov/PW Stormwater. And that's where all of our studies are, all of our flood control projects are located on that website, as well as the quarterly report that I give to council every 3 months. Those are all located on that webpage. In fact, I just gave one last week, and that's already up on that webpage as well.
Great. And you have sea level rise documents on there as well?
Yes, we have another webpage with sea level rise, and that's PWSLR. That's VBGov PWSLR. And that's where we have all of the presentations we've given regarding sea level rise, all of the studies we've done, the policy reports are out there, the nature and natural-based solutions is up there. As well as we have a storyboard that talks about sea level rise and how it's occurred over the years in Virginia Beach.
Well, I know that that's a lot of great information that's available for our citizens. Thank you so much for joining us today and
You're
giving us
welcome.
all the 411.
Happy to come.
And now you're in the know. Thanks for joining us today. Do you have an idea for a topic we should cover? Well, send an email to mizinfo@vbgov.com and we'll get on it. Oh, and don't forget, you can check out previous episodes and articles anytime on our companion website, vbgov.com/VB411. See you next time.